Welcome to FSI Fridays. I am your host, Johansson Sandersagra. I'm joined with Edwin Gorin, and we are your hosts for FSI Fridays.
Hi, everyone. Happy Friday.
So, Edwin, tell us what FSI Fridays are all about.
Sure. Johansson, you and I go on customer calls, and a lot of customers end up saying, oh, I didn't know Microsoft does that, or, we end up helping them address a big challenge they've had. So I know you and I got together and we said, how awesome would it be to share these customer successes with others and focus on financial services? We don't, we have a gap there where it's focused on FSI. So I know we plan to do this. A lot of people thought it'd be a great idea. We want to span this out to, our 4 additional solution areas. So really excited about working with you and all the other speakers, getting people's feedback, letting them hear what's important to them. So we really appreciate everyone joining. And just for the audience, thank you. This is our first kickoff. We're going to make it as fun as possible. We're going to take 30 minutes to do a presentation. We'd love to ask that you use the Q&A to ask questions in the middle of it. So be sure to use that Q&A window for your burning questions. We'll be sure to also leave the last 15 minutes to address them. So Johansson, all yours if you want to kick it off.
Great. Yeah, let's get started. So, we've got a lineup of events scheduled for FSI Fridays. Here's the list of June events that you can see right now. Our first presenters are joining us from various different places, and we've got Jessica and Chris who are here to talk about FSI, empowering FSI customers through business connectivity with Microsoft Bookings. So, Jessica, do you mind introducing yourself?
Sure thing. Hi, everybody. My name is Jessica Wilczek. I'm the product marketing manager for Microsoft Bookings, and I sit within the Outlook and Exchange team. I'm really excited to be here today.
Cool. And while we have Jessica on there, Chris, do you mind doing a quick intro? I want to, talk to us about yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Chris Paris. I'm a Modern Workplace Customer Success Manager in Financial Services West.
Great. Thanks for the introductions. So let's get started right away. Microsoft Bookings. Jessica, do you mind just explaining what Microsoft Bookings is and maybe give us a quick demo of what's possible?
Yeah, absolutely. So I can just give you a quick overview first. So Bookings is essentially a smart scheduling tool, and it's actually an app within Office 365. And so when you think about an organization such as a financial institution, you generally have 3 main scheduling components. So there are services, or the type of appointments and services that you provide. There are the staff members that are actually experts in those services and provide those services. And then you have the customers and clients who book those services. But things get a little more complicated than that. There is different schedules, different resources are available at different times. You want to make sure people aren't double booked. Customers want the flexibility to schedule on their own time. A lot of things going on. So Bookings comes in here and lets businesses customize all of these different moving parts to give them a versatile way to book a wide variety of appointments within their organization.
Fantastic.
And Chris, I think you had a customer that recently used Bookings. Did you want to give an overview, kind of the value they saw there, and then I can go into a quick demo?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Jessica. So back in calendar year 19, there was a customer I was working with, a larger bank firm down in Kansas City, and they had approached our team about a scheduling tool that they could use to provide a virtual, tellerless type of experience for their customers. And so what they were seeing is that they really wanted to engage with their younger bank customers, something similar to like Esurance was doing, and provide that virtual tellerless banking experience. And so we see here on the left-hand side of the screen, they decided to, their approach was to leverage Microsoft Bookings. And then what they really liked about the tool was that there's a consistent platform experience. We'll see as Jessica gets into her demo today. And what was also very appealing to them is that this was built into their Microsoft 365 licensing agreement. So no additional costs and nothing to bolt on. On the left-hand side here, we see a little bit of their, this is an example of a customer-facing intranet page that they published. And so they were advertising the banking services and then how quickly and easy it could be just to jump in and schedule an appointment.
Hey, Chris, I mean, that's really cool. How did it take them a long time to get this implemented, or, was it an out-of-box experience that seemed pretty easy to do?
Yeah, there was a bit of a journey as we engaged with the customer, making sure that we had, make sure we recorded all of their requirements, maybe sure we had a good understanding of the services that they wanted to provide to their customer base, and questions along the lines of how many different bank branches, how many different types of locations. But from end to end, I think we were looking at somewhere in the neighborhood of 4 to 6 months before the, and this was from inception all the way to delivery, 4 to 6 months. So a good part of that was just understanding how the service operated and then navigating the company, of course.
You bet. And I know I have a customer looking into it right now, and they're hoping to get this up in a couple of weeks. So it's, one of those things that's pretty scalable and, easy to implement. So we're really glad you could share that with us.
Yep.
So Jessica, do you mind just giving us a brief demo and actually showing us how you would set this up as an admin and what the experience would be like?
Yeah, absolutely. So with the kind of initial overview in mind, we think about bookings in two main areas. So we have what we call the bookings web app, and that's accessed by just selecting bookings within the Office launcher. And it's all a web app, it's not a desktop app. And this is kind of more of the admin experience. So the scheduler, the person that's setting up the page. And then we have what we call our self-service page. So the self-service page is actually something that you can expose to the end user or the customer or client in this case. And it essentially funnels all of the information within that web app and all of the selected services and staff that you define into this one easy to navigate experience. So just keep in mind, those are the kind of two pieces of it, but I'll go ahead and start with what's actually happening in the web app. So within bookings, and this is kind of the setup that you would go through if you were to actually go and set up your first bookings calendar. And so here, you would go directly to services, and this is where you kind of define the actual services that your business provides. And we have a lot of different moving parts here, and there's a lot of different areas to make this scalable. And so you can see here we've pre-filled some specific services that would be relevant to a financial institution, such as a loan consultation, account openings, safe deposit box access. So it kind of varies from things that are both could be done virtually to also be done in person. And I'll just go in here and show you some of the aspects of a service, just to give you a high-level overview. There's just general service details, but there's also a lot of different attributes that for each service, such as where it's located. If it's an online meeting, I know we're all kind of navigating this new virtual world. So we've seen a lot of customers utilize this online meeting toggle and attach Teams into their bookings experience. This way, each time a new appointment is scheduled, a unique Teams meeting link will be added to that appointment, so it can make for easy virtual business to be done. You can set up the duration of the service. You can even outline buffer time that customers can't book. So reducing the need to block off time before and after in case, let's say, a staff member needs to prep before a meeting or wrap up afterwards. You don't have anything being booked back to back. And so there's an option to add that in there. We have some group style services here. So if there's some sort of seminar or group meeting, you would want to allow multiple people to book for that time. You can expose a pricing structure. You can also choose to keep it as kind of price agnostic if they'll say the price changes or you go through an insurance company. And then we have specific fields and confirmation and reminder emails here. So these confirmation and reminder emails are a great way to help mitigate some of the repetitive scheduling tasks we normally see. You can set up the exact reminder emails you want for the customer and the staff member to be sent out when you want them, 15 minutes before the appointment, days before the appointment, maybe just to remind them that they have an appointment, but also to bring any relevant documents with them. And so we have all kinds of different fields and settings here that you can customize at a service level. We have different business hours, different scheduling policies, all of that. And so what's great about bookings is you go in here one time, you set up the service, the ins and outs of it, all of those fields I showed you, and then you do that once, and then it is honored every single time that appointment is booked. So as I said before, really reducing the repetitive scheduling tasks here and putting these services that you provide to customers at the forefront of everything.
Wow, Jessica, this is really amazing stuff, and it seems like it's very simple to set up. And I've also noticed a couple of the deep integrations into the rest of the end user experience, both from the integrations with Teams for meetings and also the could you talk about some of the Outlook integrations here?
Yeah, absolutely. So I would say that the best thing that we have with bookings is the integration directly into an Office calendar. So as you'll see here in this calendar page that's exposed, you see that we have named appointments, which map back to the services from the services tab. So that's anything that's booked through bookings. So that's pretty straightforward, kind of your basic calendar view. But you also see these busy, tentative, and free time blocks. And that's actually coming from this staff member's Office calendar, so directly from their Outlook calendar. And
wait, so Jessica, quick question here, just to make sure our audience is aware. So this is hooking in directly to the individual people's calendars. So this is, if I was out sick for half a day, it would block my calendar, and people would be able to see that. Is that true?
Yes, absolutely. And so it'll actually flow through that availability directly to bookings. So you can see if Isaiah has a business meeting, maybe he has a team meeting going on at 8:30 in the morning today, then in bookings, even though technically he would normally be available for some of these appointments, bookings would actually see this time as busy, and so it wouldn't book that time. So it allows you to give that flexibility to avoid double booking. Obviously, in something like a financial institution or really in our day-to-day lives, we have these customer-facing interactions where we have to meet with customers and clients, and we want to be open to them with the time periods that we have free. But we also have our own appointments, whether they're personal or they're for work, and we want to make sure that those blend very, very seamlessly together. And so bookings takes out that guesswork and helps schedule for times that the person is actually free.
You hit the nail on the head, because how many times do we get triple, double booked, right? No one's looking at our calendars. So this is really cool to me.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Yeah. We see that being like a really big value add here for bookings. And on top of that too, every time that a booking is booked, both the staff and the customer will get a confirmation email that looks like this. And so it has all of the details of the booking, of the appointment, even a link to join directly if it's a Teams meeting. But there's also this ICS file that's sent with it, so a regular calendar event. And so not only does the Outlook and Office calendar flow through to bookings, but bookings calendar actually flows through to Outlook, so that the staff members see that integrated seamlessly within their normal work calendar and can manage their appointments from there.
So Jessica, if I had to cancel the appointment, something came up, or I had to reschedule it, or even from an end user experience, I had to cancel it, how would that experience play out with bookings?
Mm-hmm. So there's two different roles, and I think you touched on a little bit in the question. You have both the staff member / scheduler role, who's an administrator of this page, and then you also have the end user. So from this page, this calendar view shows all of the staff members when they're available and what they have booked. And if something needs to be changed, it's as simple as selecting the event, editing it, and you can cancel the booking up here. You can send them a note in the cancellation if you want to make sure that the customer understands why the booking's been canceled. You can change the time in here and reschedule. And as you reschedule, it'll change availability, so you can see if you need to reschedule it to other staff members, who's available and who's not. And then we also have, and then it'll simply just move the appointment and then send the customer a new confirmation email. But from the end user perspective, they get this email right here, and they have this button where they can manage their booking. So if they click on the manage booking button, they actually can go in here and have this page exposed to them where they can reschedule, cancel, or select a new booking. So it gives that additional flexibility where it can be done from the actual scheduler perspective, but it can also be done from the end user perspective. So there doesn't have to be playing phone tag or anything like that where the customer has to get in contact with the staff member or the business and rearrange their appointment.
This is great, Jessica. Thanks for
That's
that
great.
demo.
Yeah, no, that's a great overview. Let's switch over to Chris. Can you tell us about your customers' challenges and how they decided to implement it and why?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question. So some of the things that were top of mind for this customer, definitely when I look at the requirements that they presented, I could kind of break them down into 3 different categories. And it kind of falls into, what's that customer experience going to be? Also around the administrative and the internal employee perspective, and what controls, what versatility do they have? Jessica touched on that a little bit with the ability to reschedule a staff member, for example. And then lastly, things that were really top of mind, again, this is a regulated industry, is security and compliance, and having the ability to manage to those controls definitely were top of mind for this customer. Some other things that, as we learned along the way, so I mean, we look at the requirements listing here, and we could definitely drill into some of these things around each of those experiences. But I think really it's the lessons learned as they were going into this and how they were going to deploy it. Some of those use case examples, like Jessica mentioned, if I have a staff member who calls in sick that day, what versatility do I have to rebook or reschedule the appointment? Other questions top of mind are, specifically in the banking industry, is I may have multiple branches. So if I have multiple branches, what type of services are offered, and how many bookings mailboxes do I create to help support those different locations?
Yeah, I think, when I was speaking to another customer about this, they were talking about different ways to implement it with different branches. So, how did they address that, right? If they have 5, 10, 100 branches, what are some of the ways that your customer decided to have other folks create appointments?
Yeah, that's a great question. Something that I'm seeing come up quite frequently with a lot of our customers who are adopting bookings. And, I'd say there's a couple different approaches here for the advice. It could be standing up one bookings page for each individual branch location. It could be creating a bookings page based on the service. So that's actually what one of my other customers who has just recently adopted bookings in the insurance industry has started to do, is based on the service being offered. They are reporting like multiple branch locations on the same bookings page. And that way they're just defining it by the service. And so that helps the different line of business teams inside the industry. So if it's inside of banking, maybe you have a division that works just specifically on home mortgage. You could have a bookings page that focuses in on those home mortgage services, and thus identify the different branch locations, maybe by a state or a geographical area.
So Chris, you mentioned earlier around compliance, and I know with our financial services customers that we work with, compliance is top of mind with e-communications and regulations. Could you just expand a little bit more on how your customer found value with bookings and the compliance capabilities?
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's a great question, and definitely a point that I would say we should lead off with, is talking about identity, security, and compliance when it comes to these types of tools. And so specifically around bookings, the great thing about it is that it's back-ended by Microsoft Exchange. And so for my customer who had an investment in e-communication, capture and archive, and a supervision process, the ability to tap into the bookings mailbox that's created and capture and supervise all of the communications, all of the content that is transmitted between the company and the customer, it really put them at ease, knowing that right out of the gate, they would have the security and compliance controls in place that they needed to make sure that they met state, federal regulation and guidelines.
Yeah, that's definitely one important aspect for our customers, all about the compliance and security. You know, I noticed you created some bullet points around what roadblocks were addressed. I think Teams has come a long way since last year as well. So, you know, what were some of those challenges? And, you know, I know we overcame them.
Yeah, absolutely. So two things were identified by our customer last year that I was working with. And at that time, there was not a virtual meeting experience that was inside the bookings product. And so, you know, the ability to send SMS text alerts and require that consent, that was great. But they were really going for that, you know, virtual tellerless experience. And so having an online meeting was top of mind. And then also they had identified they had a need to control who could create bookings pages. So, you know, a lot of our banking customers and all of our firms in FSI sometimes are very conservative in their approach of how they adopt and deploy new technology. So this firm wanted to have a request-driven process around who could create the different booking sites. So those were two things that were top of mind as we went through deploying bookings to this organization.
Thanks, Chris, for that. I think, you know, it would be great if Jessica, you know, could comment just around some of those roadblocks and, you know, maybe some of those Teams experiences and maybe a little bit about the customizations.
Yeah, definitely. And Chris, I think you did a great job of explaining some of the ways that we think bookings lights up, you know, it's with its connection with Exchange and Teams and also some of those, the processes we have in place for admin controls for who gets to create pages, who has access to them. And so I think that's a great point. In terms of Teams, we, as I highlighted a bit in our demo, we do have the ability for online meetings now, which, as Chris mentioned, was previously a roadblock, but we have addressed that. And so with every meeting that's created, there is automatically a Skype or Teams link, whatever is the preferred meeting client of the staff member that's added to that page. But we also recently, only a couple weeks ago, rolled out the Bookings app in Teams, which is what you're seeing on your screen now. And so this is really, really great. And we think it really helps that cohesiveness end to end of managing what a bookings calendar looks like. And so with this rollout, you can see that Bookings is actually added as an app that shows up in the left rail, and it showcases the calendar piece of Bookings. So you can see that on the left-hand side. You can manage the schedules, you can make new bookings, you can manage the ones that currently exist. On the right, you can see what it would look like to create that quick new booking. And so this is really helpful if for both reasons, if you want to just manage bookings from that page. So if you're still perhaps taking calls or email requests for appointments, then you can manage them that way, in addition to that self-service page that I showed earlier. So that page that you also expose to customers. And so really what we recommend here is going into the Bookings web app for all of the setup and really getting that rich experience with all of the different features and customizations, and then moving back into the app within Teams for all of that day-to-day management of the schedule.
That's great, Jessica. Do you mind just showing us a little bit more of the kind of end user experiences and maybe even possibly some of that customization that you were talking about?
Yeah, absolutely. Let me go ahead and share my screen again, and I'll be happy to walk through it. So I think the first point I'll hit on would be just building off the customization point, and I think Chris really did a good job of giving an overview of the different ways that we have seen people customize the solution, and it really is truly customizable. I mean, I showed you all of the different ways that you can customize these services, and they can be created as such to really fit the use case that you need. We've even seen Bookings act as more of a way to regulate capacity. So just as you can move your business into more of a virtual remote world with these online meetings, with these number of attendees, you can also regulate capacity. So we were actually working with one customer that was interested in having a specific service type that was only in-person appointments, but they could only allow 5 attendees or 5 people in the branch at a time. And so here they would increase the maximum attendees to 5, and thus it would regulate for them how many people would be allowed into the branch at a time. And so there's that level of of customization. We also even have these scheduling policies. I touched on these briefly, but we've seen these scheduling policies be manipulated in order to accommodate certain timely events. So if different events or services are only available for certain moments in time, making sure that it's exposed to the end user in a very friendly way so that they see when it can be booked and they can't book too far ahead of time to manage schedules and manage when the event would be. And even having custom availability. So we see some customers only offering services on certain days of the week. We also see this at a staff level, and so I'll just pop over to staff to show you some of that flexibility we have here. Let me go into this staff member, and so they have business hours as well. And so if you have staff members that jump between different branches, let's say, or they only want to reserve maybe the mornings or the evenings for a specific time, this is super easy to manipulate over here. So you can use specific business hours. You can even cut different times within the day. So if you want to build in the lunch hour or something like that, it really is customizable. And then to the point of like scheduling in general, all of these staff members, they have different roles. So they can be administrators, they can access the entire page, or they can just be guests where maybe, to Chris's point in terms of management at an admin level, maybe you don't want all of these staff members to have access to all the ins and outs of this page. They can still be booked as guests and have their free busy flow through, get the calendar invites, all of that. And so it really just adds that extra layer of customization to the page.
So Jessica, this is great stuff. You know, I think the ability to come in and really have that customization for all of the different people that would be taking the bookings or appointments really just, you know, makes it super simple.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. And that's kind of what the point of bookings is to funnel all of this information and take all of these complexities that we encounter with scheduling day to day and distill it into one very simple tool that's easy to deploy, easy to manage. You can determine what you want this external page to look like, customize it to fit your theme, and it's all very straightforward, and then just create such an easy rhythm afterwards. And even from the end user perspective, I'll touch on that from your earlier question of what the end user experience looks like, and it really simplifies everything down. And so they can select, they can see what the appointments are about, how much they cost, select an appointment that they want, and then see a time that actually fits into their schedule. So it makes scheduling a lot easier, picks a time that works for them. They automatically see which employees are available. You don't even have to expose employees if you don't want to. So if you'd prefer them to just meet with whoever's available, bookings will do all of that work for you in the back end. We accommodate different time zones, so the end user doesn't even have to think about it. I'm in Central Time right now, but the bookings calendar is actually in Pacific Time, and bookings knew I was in Central Time. It accommodated all of the time zones to fit in my time zone, so it's a lot less of a cognitive load for me. And then as the end user, I just input all of my details, click book, and then I get the confirmation emails, and I'm good to go. So really streamlining the experience.
So Jessica, you talked about this earlier, just around the integrations with the calendar. So if I'm, you know, this is updating in real time, I'm assuming, right? So as people are booking time and my calendar as an agent may be getting busy, this is automatically updating to show all of those available times.
Yes, definitely. It updates constantly. So each time an appointment is booked, it'll remove that appointment from being booked. If I go into bookings itself, and this is a pretty real-time update. So once you go into the calendar, if all of a sudden Megan has something booked on her calendar for later this afternoon, it'll pop up as a busy time slot, almost real time as soon as this page is loaded by the user, and then it will automatically reflect here. And so it will prevent that time from being booked and takes a lot of that guesswork out of it. So we've definitely seen it being very easy to manage once and deploy at scale, because it really is as simple as like deploying this bookings page, once you set up all the services and staff, you just save and publish this page, open it up, and then it's ready to be booked right away. And so very little time to deploy in that way. There's even options to embed it within an iframe, so you can make it more streamlined and embedded within your website directly. And so it makes that integration pretty clean throughout.
Yeah, what I really love about it is that user experience is pretty straightforward, and I could probably point my mom to it and she could book an appointment, right? It's nothing too complex, because once it gets a little tough, then you're like, you're not gonna be able to book anything. So I appreciate the simplicity of it.
Mm-hmm.
So great. I think that was fantastic information, Jessica and Chris. Thank you very much for joining us on FSI Fridays. So we're going to open it up for some question and answers based off of those that are in the chat window. If you want to ask a question, feel free to drop it into the chat window here. So to kick us off, really wanted to just hear from Chris around just how popular bookings has been over the last maybe several weeks with your engagement with customers in financial services.
Yeah, absolutely, Johansson. So I think there's been a couple different things that have helped really kickstart bookings. And the first one, obviously, is our current state, right? Working from home and looking for new ways to engage with our customers virtually. And so making sure that the rhythm of business continues, but just in that virtual state. The other thing that's really helped drive some of the interest in bookings, many of my customers have found the post that was made in the Microsoft 365 Admin Center about the release of bookings and how it's now integrated into the enterprise SKUs. And so that's driven a lot of interest, and it's, I have 4 or 5 different customers I work with who previously may not have had the appetite for bookings, but now definitely are getting that appetite for a scheduling tool, given just where they're at with their organization, but also current state.
That's great. And so, your current customers that have deployed some of this, could you just talk about some of the customizations? Did they just use this default page? What level of customizations did they use to kind of fit their specific business needs?
Yeah, that's actually been the very exciting part. The discussions that we initially start off with is just the quick intro about what bookings is and how the tool works. But what's been exciting is seeing how the different organizations have adopted and utilized the tool as well as marketing the tool. So, I work across, inside of financial services. We have our 3 industry operating units, and I find myself kind of pivoting in between all 3 of them at different times. Specifically in the banking industry, I'm seeing customers adopt with bookings for that virtual tellerless experience. They're looking for ways to bring customers into the branches, given our current state with COVID-19, how to regulate how people come into the different branches. I'm seeing it used internally as a scheduling tool for benefits enrollment and other types of events that happen inside the organization, where again, they either have to restrict the number of employees in an area, or potentially just given the number of staff that they have to accommodate, a large range of employees, bookings help schedule that. And one thing that's really key in that area when I think about the benefits enrollment area and bringing in different staff to help augment this, is bookings allows for you to bring in additional staff members like guests. And so these could be individuals who may not even be part of your organization. They could be contract or consultancy employees, and you can bring them in for a short period of time.
Oh, that's great. No, thank you for sharing that, Chris. Let's go to the Q&A. We have a couple of questions here. I'll start with the first one. Byron asked, what's the difference between a guest and a viewer?
Yeah, I can take that. So it's basically just the access level that they have for the Bookings web app. So there's that tiered access. And so you can think of it as an administrator has full access to Bookings. So they have full access to that Bookings web app and the specific calendar that's created there. They can edit it, they can navigate through each different part of it, and they can make changes as they want to. Viewers can see all of that information in the web app. They can see the calendar, they can see the services and the setup, but they can't actually make any of those changes. So they won't be able to make any reschedules or cancellations of the appointment. And then an even more restricted level of access would be the guest role. So in the guest role, they wouldn't be able to access the booking, that specific bookings calendar within the Bookings web app. They would only get emails that they have been booked. So at each level, when a staff member has been booked through Bookings, they'll get a confirmation email notifying that they've been booked, and they'll get reminder emails as it has been set up and determined within Bookings. And so a guest will receive all of those emails. They can be booked. Their free busy flows through if they're within the same tenant, but they can't actually make any of those scheduling changes and edits to the web app.
Thanks, Jessica. We've got another question in the Q&A, and this one's coming from Greg, and I think this is directed towards you, Jessica. Where does Bookings save the data? For example, is the info stored in Exchange Online, SharePoint, Azure Blob Storage?
Yeah, so Chris touched on this a bit in his section, and so I'll just try to make it a bit more clear. Bookings actually sits all within Exchange substrate. So each time that a Bookings calendar is created, it's essentially creating a shared mailbox within Exchange. And so what's happening there is that all of the data is flowing through that Exchange mailbox. So all pieces of Bookings data can actually be accessed through that Exchange mailbox. And so it's all kind of based on that back end. The front end of the web app has more interface with Azure, but all of the data residency is all within Exchange. And so to Chris's point, that's what makes this a very easy solution to start deploying. People are quite familiar with Exchange in terms of like what the customer and IT administrators, and they understand how Exchange operates, data residency. They're generally fairly comfortable with it if they're utilizing Outlook. And so Bookings just sits within there, which makes it a bit easier to familiarize customers with in terms of the back end.
Great. Thank you very much, Jessica. So as we wrap up FSI Fridays, our first one, we'd like to welcome you to future events as well. Please join us and register for future events at aka.ms/FSI Fridays. We also want your feedback, as well as if you want to request a follow-up to learn more about Bookings. Use our feedback link at aka.ms/FSI Fridays feedback. We'll also be posting this recording on a YouTube channel very shortly, so that you'll be able to access this on demand and share with others as well. And so I want to take this. Sorry, go ahead, Edwin.
I also, wanted to talk about feedback. That link, FSI Fridays feedback. We'd love to also have some of our customers come in and talk about some of the technologies, but one of the things that might be important too is having our team follow up with you. I noticed that there is a TAP program. Maybe Jessica, you could talk about that, and that could be one of the follow-ups with you directly with your organization.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thanks for bringing that up. So we actually are launching a Bookings TAP, and so it will be a private preview of sorts, which essentially is a place where Bookings customers can come in. They can see our under NDAs, can see our roadmap, our ideas for features that we're coming out with, help us prioritize our roadmap, do some of that early feature validation. And then as well, when we start flighting new features that we'll be coming out with, they'll have access to those early to give us feedback, play around with them, see how they like them. So Bookings is really rooted in customer feedback. We really appreciate it. We think it's really important. And so we have a TAP program going on there. And I will go ahead and work with Edwin and Johansson to make sure that it's posted on some of those pages, and you can, generally speaking, we'll have access to it via the account managers and the account teams.
No, that's super exciting. I think it shows that we do want to get engaged and allow a lot of our customers to take advantage and leverage this technology. One, I wanted to personally thank you, Jessica and Chris, for helping us kick this series off. You did a great job. And, I want to thank the folks that are watching this recording, either live or afterwards. And we're really excited to, continue this series. As Joe Hansen mentioned, we have another one next week. We're booked for June, and we're going to go ahead and start, taking requests for July. So, Joe Hansen, any closing final thoughts here?
No, just wanted to again thank Jessica and Chris for their time. We appreciate it. Thank you for watching, and we will see you on next Friday for the next episode of FSI Fridays.
All right, have a good weekend, everyone. Thanks.